Level 1. Raw Recruit. When the sun goes down in a medieval city, it's not just evening, it's the start of a brutal survival game. The moment the cathedral bell hits the curfew toll, the town turns into a completely different, terrifying beast. Merchants slam their doors and lock them with heavy oak bars, while regular folks barricade themselves inside, shoving heavy chests against the entrance. Honest life completely stops. The narrow streets fall into a thick, pitch-black darkness. No street lights, no police, no cameras. Absolutely nobody is coming to help you. People think peasants in the fields or knights at war had it toughest in the Middle Ages, but they clearly never pulled a night shift in the city watch. Your job out here isn't to serve grand justice or wipe out crime. The goal is simple. Make it to dawn with your limbs attached. Trust me, the city will try its best to break you. You start at the very bottom. No real weapons, zero respect from the veterans, and a cold knot of fear permanently sitting in your stomach. This is the night watch of a medieval metropolis. As a raw recruit, you're just cheap, disposable cannon fodder. The older guards who've survived this for years give you the absolute worst routes, places a decent person wouldn't even walk through by day. Your gear is so pathetic, the local thugs will laugh in your face. You get a stiff, poorly fitted leather cap that won't do much against a heavy club, a simple 7-foot wooden pole with a cheap iron tip, and a rusted oil lantern. That lantern constantly smokes, reeks of rancid fish oil, and gives off such a weak flicker you can barely see your own boots.
But your biggest enemy starting out isn't a clever thief or a killer. It's the street itself. There's no sewage system here. Everything people build up during the day gets dumped out of second and third-story windows straight onto the stones below. Sure, the law says citizens have to yell a warning 3 times before throwing their waste. But if you get distracted or look up at a sudden noise, your night is instantly ruined. Rookie watchmen learn the main rule of the street fast. Walk glued to the walls under the overhanging roofs. Listen to every rustle from above and keep your eyes on the ground so you don't sink knee-deep in human waste, mud, and rotting scraps. Your main chore is pacing the open market square and making sure taverns close on time. When curfew hits, every drinking den has to lock up. Try telling that to a rowdy pack of mercenaries who just got paid in silver and want to keep drinking until they drop. Or port laborers who see you as a useless state leech. One wrong move, one aggressive shove with your staff, and a massive brawl kicks off in the dark. For a lone, untrained recruit, a tavern riot is a straight path to the graveyard. You have a wooden rattle and a brass horn on your belt to call for help, but by the time that weak sound reaches the main guardhouse blocks away, the senior guards will only arrive to pull your body out of a ditch.
You have to walk a razor-thin line every single minute. Know when to act tough and when to look away when armed men slip down a dark alley. Play the hero, and the streets swallow you. Show cowardice, and the captain strips your uniform and leaves you to starve. But if you handle the drunken fights, dodge the flying filth, and keep your lantern lit through a freezing rainstorm, you'll finally earn some respect. The captain will take you off the open market and send you deeper into the residential zones. Though once you enter those pitch-black labyrinths, you'll actually miss the loud drunks from your old route. Level 2. Alley Watchman. Now you're on the second rank, an alley watchman. The market square you used to hate suddenly feels like the safest, brightest place on earth. Deep in the artisan quarters, the timber houses lean so far over the street that the roofs almost touch, blocking out the moon entirely. You're working inside an endless maze of dark, damp walls and the heavy stench of rotting wood. They finally trade your cheap recruit staff for a real weapon, a heavy iron halberd. It's a massive wooden shaft with a spear point, an axe blade, and a jagged hook. Great for keeping attackers back or pulling a rider off a horse, but completely awkward to swing in an alley barely 4 feet wide.
And the people hiding in these shadows aren't drunk mercenaries. They're professional housebreakers, cut purses, and smugglers. Your night means checking the heavy iron padlocks on wealthy cloth warehouses, inspecting window grates, and making sure no one is prying open an armorer's shutters. Walking through the freezing mist, your lantern light catches 3 figures by the back door of a spice merchant. They don't run. They just turn and look right at you, holding iron crowbars and short, wide blades. The leader takes a calm step forward. Instead of attacking, he pulls a thick leather pouch from his cloak and drops it into the mud by your feet. You hear the heavy clink of solid silver. That pouch holds more money than you'd make in 2 years of miserable night service. Now you face the choice that defines your entire career. Pick up the bag, turn around, and walk the other way, and you get a warm, comfortable night. Tomorrow you can buy the thick leather boots you need, a heavy coat, and a hot meal at the city's best inn. But that silver has a sharp edge. If those thieves get sloppy and caught by another patrol, or if a fence sells them out, they'll end up in the castle dungeons. Under torture on the rack, the first thing they'll do to save their skin is scream your name to the executioner. Then you're in a damp, rat-infested cell waiting for the scaffold for treason.
What if you stay loyal to the oath? You reach for your horn to blow the alarm, but the second the metal hits your lips, you hear a scrape from the dark doorway right behind you. A 4th accomplice you completely missed steps out with a thin iron spike aimed at your kidneys. If your reflexes lag for a second, this patrol is your last. Surviving the alleys is a high-stakes psychological game. You have to know when to fight with the halberd, when to scream for help, and when it's smartest to slow your pace, let them slip away, and just report the broken lock in the morning. If you outsmart the underground, turn down the corrupt silver, and keep your chest intact, you build a reputation as someone who knows the city's dark underbelly perfectly. Your superiors will notice, and you'll move up to a much higher, more powerful, but infinitely more terrifying post. Because ordinary thugs are nothing compared to the nightmare about to creep into the sleeping city. When the heavy wooden doors start getting marked with giant, greasy black crosses, the rules of survival change completely. The city air changes almost overnight, turning thick with the stench of burning vinegar, sulfur, and rotting flesh. The chaotic noise of tavern brawls and alley robberies drops dead, replaced by a heavy silence, broken only by the distant rumble of plague carts rolling over the stones.
Level 3, Quarantine Enforcer. You've been bumped up to the 3rd rank, a Quarantine Enforcer. Your job isn't about human criminals anymore. It's a direct war with an invisible killer. The iron halberd isn't your main tool now. Instead, you march through the dark with a heavy blacksmith's hammer, iron nails, and rough wooden planks. When the city physicians find a new case of the pestilence, they paint a greasy cross on the door, and your squad goes in at midnight to do the grim work. You literally board up the house from the outside, sealing the dying, the dead, and the healthy family members together in a living tomb. As you hammer those nails, the sound rings through the empty street like gunshots. From the other side, you hear desperate scratching, weeping, and people cursing you, begging for mercy. It wears on your mind in a way no armor can protect against. But if you hesitate or open that door even an inch out of pity, the desperate crowd inside will rush you. A single breath of their infected air or a touch from their feverish hands finishes you on the spot. To protect yourself, you wear a thick linen cloak soaked in wax and fat, stuffing your collar with strong herbs, praying the miasma doesn't break through. But the virus isn't the only threat during a walkdown. With entire families dying behind closed doors, abandoned estates of wealthy merchants become easy targets for scavengers.
Looters slip through the shadows, breaking into infected homes to rip silver rings off corpses, completely ignoring the risk of spreading the plague. When you catch them, there are no arrests or trials. The magistrate gives you absolute authority to execute them on the spot,
dropping them right on the pavement with your halberd. You have to become a machine, keeping frantic mobs from breaking quarantine, fighting off scavengers, and checking your own skin every morning for the black swellings that mean your time is up. If you keep your sanity through the horror, avoid the sickness, and keep the city from tearing itself apart, the rulers realize you're made of iron. They'll take you off the plague streets and give you the ultimate burden of command, elevating you to a position where you dictate who lives and dies. Level 4. Knight Captain. You've reached the 4th rank, stepping into the polished leather boots of a knight captain. You no longer walk the damp, freezing beats alone or worry about a random knife in the ribs. When you move through the city, you have a personal guard of 6 veteran watchmen with steel breastplates and loaded crossbows. Your main weapon is a finely balanced steel broadsword hanging from a velvet belt. But don't let the luxury fool you. The pressure on your shoulders just multiplied by 10.
Your new battlefield is a smoky stone guard room inside the central gatehouse, lit by dozens of wax guard walls, its walls covered in parchment maps of the city's defenses. As a captain, you're caught in a permanent vice grip. From above, the wealthy city council and arrogant magistrates scream at you for absolute order, wanting every beggar cleared and demanding harsh tax enforcement that drives the poor to desperation. From below, the massive network of criminal guilds threatens a full-scale armed revolt if you squeeze them too hard. Try to enforce the law perfectly, and the syndicates will burn the shipping docks, murder your watchmen, and turn the night into a chaotic guerrilla war you can't win. To survive, you drop all ideas of pure honesty and learn cold, pragmatic street politics. You start holding secret midnight meetings in freezing church crypts with the same smuggling bosses you used to hunt. You cut deals. You look the other way when their black market boats land, and in exchange, they keep the street murders down and hand over a few low-level criminals every week so you have proof of success for the magistrate. You take massive bribes of gold and silver, but you don't spend it on fine wine. You use that dirty money to buy better weapons for your guards, pay off corrupt judges who threaten your men, and build a network of informants who tell you everything whispered in the lowest taverns.
Your ultimate test arrives when a sudden grain shortage sends a starving, angry mob of thousands into the streets at midnight, carrying torches, pitchforks, and clubs toward the storehouses. You have to lead your men right into their path, standing against flying bricks, cobblestones, and boiling water poured from windows. One wrong tactical move, one premature order to your crossbowmen to fire, and the street becomes a bloodbath that sparks a revolution, and the magistrate will throw you to the executioner just to quiet the public rage. But if you manage the corruption, keep the guilds on a leash, and handle riots without a total massacre, you become the most indispensable military figure in the metropolis. They'll invite you into the highest, most exclusive circle of authority. But as you prepare for that final step, realize that the wealthy politicians in the sunlit palace halls are far more vicious and deadly than any monster in the dark. The solid gold chain of office is finally placed around your neck, and the iron keys to every gate, watchtower, and dungeon are handed to you. You've reached the peak, High Constable of the realm. Level 5. High Constable. You no longer live in the shadows of narrow alleys or negotiate with low-level bosses in basements. Your home is a fortified stone tower attached to the royal palace, and your word is absolute law across the city, from the second the curfew bell rings until dawn. When you march through the streets, you lead an elite iron legion of horsemen, surrounded by standard bearers. But standing on the high stone balcony of your tower, looking down at thousands of flickering torches across the city, you quickly realize the price of absolute power is total, paralyzing paranoia. The threats here aren't physical or chaotic. They're deeply calculated and silent. You're no longer fighting the underground. You're caught in a vicious political chess game played by aristocrats, royal dukes, and treacherous politicians who want to use your military power to overthrow the king. Your daily routine is a constant struggle to stay ahead of a deadly conspiracy. One night, a high-ranking noble,
a close advisor to the crown, steps into your chambers in total secrecy. He doesn't offer a pouch of silver. He places a signed royal decree on your desk, promising vast lands, a hereditary title, and a mountain of gold. All he asks is a tiny adjustment to your watch schedules for tomorrow night, leaving the Eastern River Gate unguarded for just 2 hours between midnight and 2 a.m., letting a hidden mercenary army silently enter and seize the castle. Right here, your survival faces its ultimate test. Accept the offer and betray the king, and you might become one of the wealthiest rulers in the kingdom, but you'll spend every remaining second waiting for a knife in your back from your new co-conspirators, who will want to eliminate the only witness to their treason.
Reject the offer, draw your broadsword, and arrest the Duke for high treason, and you save the crown. But you instantly make 100 powerful enemies among the nobility. They'll spend the next year fabricating charges, bribing your servants to poison your morning wine, or paying a foreign assassin to slip into your bedroom while you sleep. To survive as High Constable, you can't trust a single soul. You never drink wine unless your taster drinks from the same bottle first. You wear a shirt of blackened steel chainmail hidden under your velvet robes every single day, and you never turn your back on your own bodyguards. A polite smile from a duchess at a royal banquet is far more dangerous than a rowdy mercenary with an axe. You have to use your network of informants, your deals with the guilds, and your control over the gates to pit your enemies against each other, crushing noble conspiracies before they start, and ensuring no single faction gets powerful enough to threaten you. Then, the deep sound of the morning bell echoes across the stone roofs, announcing dawn and the end of the long night. You walk out onto the highest parapet of the outer wall, watching the first rays of the sun melt the thick, freezing mist that gripped the city for 12 hours. Down below on the stones of the market square, the heavy oak bars of the gates are thrown open, and the first country wagons, loaded with bread and vegetables, roll in.
Among the crowd, you spot an exhausted rookie watchman, his leather cap soaked from the morning drizzle, his clothes covered in street grime, frantically trying to scrape horse dung off his cheap boots before his captain spots him. Looking down from your fortress, a faint, grim smile touches your lips as you remember your very first shift on that exact square, holding a smoky oil lantern and shivering in the wind. You did the impossible. You started at the absolute bottom as disposable cannon fodder, and through tactical sharpness, cold pragmatism, and an unbreakable will to live, you survived the filth of the streets, the traps of the alleys, the devastation of the plague, and the treacherous politics of the court. You mastered the night, bent the city to your will, and proved that even in the most unforgiving era, a man who knows how to play the game of survival can rise to rule the world from the shadows.